Joining me now, we have Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu from California. He is a member of the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committees and a good friend to us as well. So, Congressman, there's a lot to get to from all those Trump first week headlines. But first, your district in California, it just right up to the Palisades fire in L.A. It had parts of it evacuated. You were in that press briefing with Donald Trump. So describe the mood there, as you said, just a few feet away. How did it feel? Was it more tense than productive or not?
Thank you, Alex, for your question. Let me just first say my heart still goes out to all the victims of their fires, as well as those who lost loved ones. And I do want to thank President Trump and the First Lady for visiting and looking at the destruction caused by the Palisades fire. At that meeting, the president did show that he wanted to help the disaster victims. He wanted to help them rebuild. I do believe that the president wants to provide aid to California. We just want to make sure that that aid is not tied to completely irrelevant subjects. We need to make sure we don't use the pain and suffering of disaster victims to have political policies jammed through from the other side. And we've never conditioned aid for other disaster victims before. So we just want California to be treated the same as any other state.
Well, at least I was encouraged when he said something to the effect of, we can't have a golden age of America without the Golden State doing very well. And of course, that is California's moniker. So let's hope he sticks to that. But how could Trump's suggestion to get rid of FEMA change how emergency aid even works for states in a disaster? Because historically, as you know, states have relied on federal support to weather storms.
You know, what are the two states that have received the most FEMA funding in terms of individual assistance and community assistance? It's Louisiana and Florida. So what's going to end up happening if Trump does this is it's going to hurt red states more than blue states. And in fact, blue states like California provide much more revenues to the federal government than we get back in services. So over the long run, Trump's proposal would in fact hurt red states. So I expect there's going to be bipartisan pushback on his proposal.
Okay. A federal judge yesterday barred some of the January 6th convicts that were pardoned by Donald Trump from stepping foot in the U.S. Capitol without approval from the court, though the DOJ is pushing back on that. Most have free rein and say they are ready to help President Trump. The Proud Boys leader, Enrique Tarrio, wants retaliation against those who testified and put him behind bars. Do you worry about potential retribution and more violence?
I do. It is massively disrespectful to pardon 1,500 criminals, hundreds of whom had attacked police officers on January 6th. And some of these folks are quite dangerous, and I expect some of them are going to commit more crimes. And when that happens, it's going to be because they were let out of jail free. And so we want to make sure that we protect folks, that we continue to have security at the Capitol. And I just feel very horrible for the victims of these crimes, for law enforcement officers that were attacked, because the perpetrators were set free by these pardons.
Yeah. The Trump administration did face a legal setback, sir, when a federal judge temporarily blocked Trump's executive order, putting an end to birthright citizenship, calling it blatantly unconstitutional. Multiple states, that includes your state of California, have sued, saying that the order violates the 14th Amendment. You're a lawyer. How do you expect this to play out in the courts?
I believe the president's executive order on birthright citizenship is flat out unconstitutional. It is as American as apple pie, that if you're born in America, you're an American. And that's how the Supreme Court has interpreted the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is very clear. It basically says all persons born in the United States are U.S. citizens. And I do believe that this is an unconstitutional executive order. I also want to talk about the practicalities of this. Let's just say that the Supreme Court said birthright citizenship no longer exists. Well, what would that mean? That would mean that for 330 million Americans, all of a sudden, no one knows if they're a citizen, right? Until you prove it. Because guess what? Your birth certificate no longer shows you're a citizen. So if you were born in Ohio or Florida or Kentucky, doesn't matter. You all of a sudden have to show who your parents were. And what about folks that don't have birth certificates, or the parents pass away and they don't have their birth certificates? It would be a huge monumental burden to millions and millions of Americans who all of a sudden would not be able to show that they're a citizen if the 14th Amendment were to be read as not allowing birthright citizenship.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that logistical hurdle, but you are 100% right. Let me ask you about the past couple of days when we've seen a modest surge of ICE arrests and military planes being used to deport some of these migrants and U.S. troops deploying to the southern border. Is this the beginning of the massive deportation effort Trump promised, and how far do you expect it to go? How far can it go?
The troops that were deployed to the southern border are not involved in deportations. If you look at what they're involved in doing, is basically supporting U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, doing logistics, doing surveillance, and so on. I also want to note that in Trump's first term, did he fix the border crisis? No, he did not. And this is not going to fix it either. The way you fix it is with comprehensive immigration reform. You're going to need a change in the laws. And I hope that the administration is open to comprehensive immigration reform, because that's the only way we're going to fix the immigration system.
Last question to you, sir, as you are a veteran. Give me your reaction to the new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
I am deeply disappointed. I know you had Congressman Seth Moulton, a combat veteran, on earlier, and I agree with what Seth Moulton said. I do hope that Secretary Hegseth does well for Department of Defense. It's one of the most important agencies in America, but I'm deeply disappointed that he was confirmed.
Okay. Well, at least I'm not disappointed after speaking with you. I always appreciate that. Thank you, Ted Lieu. Good to see you.